Today is October the 1st, 2024. My name is Joanna Sellick. I'm a British artist and I live in Wiltshire in the British countryside. I was born and raised in London and I'm the eldest of three children. Our house was a noisy house, a busy house, and there were always lively discussions around the supper table. I didn't grow up in a family of artists, but my grandmother used to sculpt, and my mother is a writer and a journalist who also made sculpture for a while. My parents prized debate and the exchange of ideas, so investigation, curiosity, engagement were all important things. Ideas around feminism and the importance of equality were instilled in me from a young age. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister during my formative years, and my mother was and remains a feminist. But it was also a time of outrageous misogyny, so it has taken years for me to comfortably inhabit womanhood. I drew a lot when I was young. It was a way for me to process thoughts, experiences, and information. It was a private world for me to inhabit. I drew places to make a relationship with them. If I drew a person, it helped me understand how I felt about them. I have a memory of being taken to a bullfight in Spain, and I spent a long time afterwards drawing what I'd seen that day. I also danced as a child. Movement, making physical shapes, drawing shapes, I think it's all linked somehow. And I loved music. I played the piano. I used to play records in my bedroom and spent hours studying the record sleeve artwork. I studied art and history of art at school, and afterwards I went to Central St Martin's to do a degree in textiles. I specialised in weaving, and I really enjoyed the construction and the focus on texture, and I loved dyeing colours. But the thing that I most enjoyed was working in my sketchbooks. It was a private place I could experiment and draw. Life at Art College was pretty wild back then. I spent many days and nights dancing in woods and fields all over the UK. It was an amazing time. We had huge freedom, so many young people coming together. There were challenges, of course, but it was an extraordinary period. Having completed my degree, I worked in the theatre for a while, and then I moved into television production. And over the course of my career back then, I did many things. I worked in stained glass, the jewellery sector in London. I had my own travel business. During this time, I periodically enrolled on art courses, but essentially I buried the need to make work for many years. I got married late in life and was lucky enough to have two daughters. Having had children, I felt compelled to paint and I enrolled on an oil painting course. It was daunting walking into an art studio again after such a long absence, but it felt like home. I've been painting and making work for about 5 years now. I'm quite a process-driven artist. I think I'm still using making to process and understand my environment, just as I did as a child. I moved out of the city a few years ago with my husband and children, and we moved to a cottage on a farm down a lane, surrounded by goats, which was a shock. I felt extremely isolated and disorientated, and art became my sanctuary. I developed a more intimate relationship with making again. I also started to relate to the outside world and to the natural world, and my relationships with my children have been writ large, so all that has and is still playing out in my work. I'm predominantly preoccupied with figuration, and I paint from life as well as from my imagination. Lately, I started painting my dreams and including meditation in my practice. I'm interested in representing the many layers of my lived experience. I draw inspiration from art, photography, memories, conversations with my girls, and my environment. I'm not conscious of being influenced by a particular artist, but the artists who've had the biggest impact on me during the last 5 years are Lee Krasner, Cecily Brown, Michael Armitage, Paula Rago, Anthony Gormley, Doran Langberg, and Joan Semmel. I use oil paint, charcoal, pastels, collage, watercolours and inks, and I draw a lot. I sometimes need to make other things like plaster casts of my hands or face. These objects may never see the light of day, but they are part of my process. I have work up on the walls on my studio, and canvases get moved around a lot. I like to group different pieces to see what links I can find. I've moved through different colour palettes and approaches over the last few years, so it's interesting to see common threads in the work. I'm currently preparing different surfaces in my studio and starting to mix my own pigments. I want to return to more collage over the coming months, and I've started to remake an old piece of work, so I think there's something to pursue there as well. My biggest challenge is the day-to-day, doing what's required to get into the right state of being to create good work. What advice would I give my younger self? Listen to your gut. In the studio, I listen to podcasts and music. Sometimes I prefer silence. Not total silence. My studio is in a building full of offices. I like the incidental noise that humans make. I don't necessarily want to talk to anybody, but I like the presence of others. The best reaction someone has had to my work is wanting to buy it. That's a wonderful thing when it finds a home. I don't think about what people will take away from my work. It isn't something I can control. In the broadest terms, I suppose I would like people to walk away still thinking about it. My hope would be that it remains with them in some way. My Instagram handle is @Joanna Sellick, so please follow me there. And my website is www.joannasellick.com.